see me there. Eye to eye, compromise is fair.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great.
We're just kind of talking off the air here.
I know.
Suddenly the recorder went on. So
I know.
I had to...
I had the magic finger on it.
edit myself. You know, it was so funny. Somebody said, Judy, early on about podcasting, you can cuss when you podcast. It's like you and me, as long as we've been in broadcasting, and you've been in the radio business longer than I have, but you know that it's really hard to be next to a microphone and cuss. I'm always astounded by how many people, it's like when I try to play sound bites on the air, it's like even Megyn Kelly is cussing. And like, please, people, you don't have to cuss every time you talk.
That is true. And yet, you just heard me cuss off mic. You notice that? I have the mouth of a sailor when I'm not on mic. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Oh, my mom and dad did not raise me this way. That's what my mom says all the time.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing. So I had a conversation with my mother. I was very upset this one day, like crying upset. Something happened, calling her up, and I'm using the F word over and over again on the phone. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't use it in the studio. Ever.
Yeah.
You walk in my studio anywhere, you just don't use it.
Because you're trained that way. Yeah, sure.
Right. So I'm saying it over and over. And finally, she's very quiet. And she goes, you know, Judith, which is when I know she's serious, I really don't like you using that word. And so I paused and I said, Mom, you're married to an Englishman. They came up with the word. And by the way, the word has meaning to it. And I went on and on about the history of the word. Yeah. And I said, and it feels really good.
Now, are you
I won't say it, but...
Well, with the F-bomb, it's so funny the other day, because I get into these loops, and for some reason I was on this RFK Jr. thing, and then I started to watch these JFK speeches, and then I got into some other thing where it's called YouTube Pong, I guess, right? Because it just keeps going and going. Then finally I got to these phone calls that John F. Kennedy made to people, you know, and one was where Jacqueline was having a baby, and they decided they were going to buy this Morgan Walsh or Jordan Walsh, whatever, this furniture, and then take a picture of it for this magazine that they were going to do, the Washington Post or something. Mm-hmm. And JFK was furious. He goes, what are you doing putting this, you know, spending all this money on furniture for my family when we've got you just killed the Air Force budget. And he goes, and I don't know what you're going to, he goes, yeah, you effed up was what you did. I'm going, I didn't know like people use that word back in the 60s.
Where it's from the Renaissance period.
Really?
Yeah. It was from England. It stands for something, which I'm not going to say, but it stands basically for, it was to tell the court that the king and queen were doing it.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
Well, because I've never heard anybody like in the past use it. You don't have any... Even Chaucer didn't use it.
Well, and that was a time when, hey, sex was actually okay to be enjoyed. Yes, we like sex.
It was bawdy.
So basically it was, you know, fortification, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
She
I got
was
you.
like stunned. And I go, so you say it. It feels really good, Mom. Please. Yeah. She wouldn't say it.
It actually does.
I mean, when I'm upset, sometimes I might overuse it. But yeah, and she says all the time, she goes, where did that mouth come from? I go, I'm the youngest of four. Nobody listened to me. So
that's funny.
But you're right. When it hits a mic, no, I'm very respectful. And I'm respectful. I don't do it in a crowd. If, like with you, you know, if just a friend or something, I would never be at a bar and say, you know, it's rude.
It's not generally how I talk anyway, so it's easier for me to do that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a Puritan about it, but because I will...
He thinks he's a Puritan.
I will. My buckled shoes. I will unleash some stuff in a car, you know what I mean?
Well,
in my lonesome self.
See, and I'm the opposite. Yeah. When I'm so the opposite. It's funny. I'll go, well, bless your soul, as they cut me off.
Yeah.
Go, oh, bless your heart.
Bless your heart's almost as worse.
I know. That's why I do it. You know,
bless your heart is an FU.
Yes, usually. It is. Yeah. You know anybody from the South. I'm from Southern California.
Yeah, exactly.
That's close enough.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. So speaking of words and communication, the whole reason that Jamie and I wanted to do this was we have a divided country, obviously. We're the divided states of America. Yeah. Which always brings me to the question, why don't we just have two states? Divided states, but that's another story.
You mean two separate countries?
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah.
And then we like St. Louis County and St. Louis City. Hey.
Well, that's a whole nother thing because that's the worst mistake ever made.
I know it is. I agree.
They did that during Reconstruction and didn't want all those hillbillies from out west, bothering them and their beautiful way of destroying their city.
Unfortunately, it cost a lot. So
it did.
It's a shame, and no matter how many times we have a vote, you can't seem to get county people to want to go with the city. And it's sad.
It's too late now because everybody thinks that they're getting crime and all that stuff, and so it's harder to do.
Strengthen numbers, people. Strengthen numbers.
Well, we're the only one besides Baltimore that has it, and the problem is, those people who did the Better Together people, they did it, and then they shoved it down everybody's throats, and then everybody's like, well, wait a minute, what about this? They're like, shut up, you're racist, you don't want black people. No, we just want to make sure this is going to be okay for the county,
everyone.
And I don't think they had a proper plan.
Kind of reminds me of the Nancy Reagan thing. What was her drugs thing?
Just say no.
Oh, just say no.
Yeah.
That worked well, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
Yes.
So it's all about language, communication, and how do we come together? How do we talk and listen?
Yeah.
Because you have to learn to compromise.
Right.
You have to learn to compromise. So I was listening to your show because we are on at the same time.
Yeah.
So I have never gotten to listen to you before. I didn't know you had it on the podcast after I should have known that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started listening, and it was interesting because what I catch, and I even pointed out to my dad, I'm a liberal. My dad's very conservative. And I said to my dad when I was visiting him in LA this last time, I was watching the local news. And I said, Dad, it's slanted. It's slanting liberal. They're talking as they're not reporting the news. And he didn't notice it. I'm a liberal pointing this out to him.
Yeah.
So I noticed things like that. And what I noticed, and I want to ask you and be honest, do you do this, and do you think former President Donald Trump does this on purpose or as a subliminal? You don't call President Biden, and you call President Trump, President Trump.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he called President Biden, Joe Biden. So that right there, I don't care what, that really bothered me as an American because we're taught different.
Yeah.
So is that something, and I'm not attacking, I'm questioning.
No, I do it on purpose.
That's what I thought. Okay,
absolutely.
Now he does
as an insult.
That's what I thought.
I totally do.
And you think he's doing the same thing?
And it's not because I think that the election was stolen, because we never actually determined that. We weren't allowed to determine that. So that was the biggest problem with January 6th, is that we didn't send that through the laundromat on January 6th like we should have, because it was stopped because they called it insurrection after inviting all these people into the Capitol, and then they shut down the whole process of trying to determine the veracity of each state's electoral college votes, which is what you're supposed to do.
But wait, we're going off a tangent.
No. I'm just telling you. So that's why I don't do that, because I think he's an illegitimate president. I really don't.
Well, I guess
I
the
do
reason
that kind of as a slap, because I believe Joe Biden is the president.
So as an American, though, Jamie, as an American, and you say you're a patriot, you're an American.
I am. Yeah.
I called when President Trump was President Trump. I called him President Trump.
Right.
I still call him former president. That's what you say. I don't call Obama. He's former President Obama.
Yeah.
Former First Lady Michelle. I do it no matter who it was, because I'm an American.
Well, there are times when I do say President Biden. I mean, there are times when I do, but oftentimes
I don't know if I heard
when Joe Biden's doing something, I call him Joe. Let's face it, he's the one who wants to be the folksy. He's the guy from Scranton, so I want to give it to him.
Wait, wasn't there Joe a few years back?
But here's the thing, though. It's listen.
Well, the reason I ask, Jamie, is because I want people to listen, and this is both sides, because let me tell you, I was going to bring up liberals do it all the time.
Right.
To listen harder. Listen to what you're not hearing. Listen to the subtleties.
Yo, sure.
Listen to what's subliminal. Now, whether you did it on purpose, and I knew you did, because I don't think you would do it subliminally, but I'll bet you those kind of things happen all the time.
Well, the people who really hate President Trump, for instance, in the media, call him ex-President Trump.
Ooh.
They like that,
I haven't heard. Well, I might have heard it.
Oh, no, they do it all the time. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they don't call him even former President Donald Trump. If you listen to the news, even the news on my station, they don't call him former President Donald Trump. They call him Donald Trump.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's on and I didn't vote for former President Donald Trump, but it's a respect. It's a respect
Yeah.
for our government,
Right,
and for
right.
what we are supposed to be.
Yes.
And so that's all. I just want to
Well,
bring
you know,
that up.
it's true though. I think that you make a good point about that appearance and how that sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that. I know I more do it from a jocularity standpoint. I don't hate Joe Biden.
I know that.
So anything like that. So I do it more because it's
Like a playful snarkiness.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't do it because I don't do it because I honestly don't believe he's our president. He's our president. Now, do I believe that there could have been some better proof that he was? Because I think we had some questions about some things that the Supreme Court should have answered regarding Pennsylvania and other votes. Yeah, but I don't consider him an illegitimate president, unlike Hillary Clinton about Trump and all these other people. So now keep in mind, the grace that people expect for us to give to Joe Biden was never given to Donald Trump going back to 2016. I'm not sure what's worse, me calling him Joe Biden or people advocating the regimented harassment of a guy over things that actually were completely and totally made up. The Steele dossier, the Ukraine call, all that stuff. And you had actually an impeachment process undertaken. You know, I didn't even support the Clinton impeachment, but they were just impeaching him like it was, you know, today's buttered toast, you know? So yeah, but it's not payback for me. It's just like, I think what happened is most of that decorum level all that went down together.
Well,
And
just
you're right.
to go as a liberal side of it,
Yes.
I go back to, and that's how I felt the Gore campaign. That's how I felt with Florida and Gore. How you felt, that's how I felt. I felt ripped off. And it's fine. It
You
ended
mean on the 2016 election?
when Gore should have won.
Oh,
yes.
well, I get it. Yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
that's how I felt.
Yeah.
So I understand, and as a human, and as an American, and as a human, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so maybe, you know, it's okay. We're even now.
Well,
this
no,
won't be the first or last time that kind of stuff
and I
happens.
guess you're right though. I'm not trying to get even, nor am I trying to kind of punish Joe Biden by Jamie, because he doesn't care. Jamie Allen refusing to call me. He doesn't give a flying rip. But there's something that in my mind, you know, kind of like I don't link that because
Right.
it's hard for me to say, not because I don't believe he's legitimate, but because I just don't really appreciate what he's doing to the country. And so it just drives me kind of nuts.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
And I've caught myself in conversations in the past when former President Donald Trump was the president, and I would say, that Trump, something like that. And
Yeah.
I'd catch myself and say, no, you know what? No, President Trump, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Because it is something that I was taught.
Yeah, sure.
And so just something, you know, we're lucky that we live in America. We can speak our mind.
Right on. Well, I think you're a better person than I am in that sense, because I just remember the disdain for Trump, and it was really deep. I mean, it was really personal. The disdain for him and his voters at the time.
Well, I wonder.
But, you
now,
know,
there was
then again-
something I noticed in this last this town hall that I noticed
Yeah.
with him. He's trying. You could tell. You could see he's trying to control himself. I could hear it, I should say, because I was listening.
Right.
And I yes. Do I think he went on a tantrum? No, of course not. Do I think he was rude? Yeah. But politicians are rude.
Journalists are rude.
They're all rude. They're just
Yeah.
people are rude. But do I think that he did not win me over?
Yeah.
The thing is, I would love to have somebody that would win me over
Yeah,
on either
right,
side. He
right.
did not win me over because
Yeah.
I felt, even when he went on to the part of the abortion where he was actually, which surprised me, said, unless it's rape or it's something. And he kind of said it very
Yeah.
under his breath.
Yeah.
And I felt like, again, semantics, really people listen to the subliminal and how a politician says something, no matter what side.
Yeah.
The way he said it was under his breath. It's almost like, well, I could take this back.
Well, I think, and that's...
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why I like President Trump.
But I think he was pandering to try to get the voters like who were on the fence.
Yeah, well, but I also think that, you know, he is the kind of conservative that I like. I don't particularly like a lot of Republicans, but I like conservatives.
I don't like any of them.
We are bogged down by social issues all the time. Abortion is a huge wedge issue all the time. I think the Roe versus Wade overturning, leaving it to the states, was ultimately the way it should be to a certain degree. But President Trump is a practical person. President Trump doesn't like to be bothered by
Former President.
Former President Trump doesn't like to be bothered by these wedge issues that are constantly pushed by the left and the right over, for instance, abortion or gay marriage or that thing.
I would like to see where it's completely taken out of both sides and see what happens.
Well, and here's how it can be done. So I consider myself to be pro-life from life to death, from conception to death.
I was very surprised you said that. I was impressed by that, by the way, because there's a lot of people that are pro-lifers that believe in the death penalty, which makes no sense to me.
I'm completely against it.
Which I was very impressed with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just only on religious grounds, because it's mostly actually on practical grounds. And then I would never want a government to have the power to kill one of its own citizens. And especially now as we get into things and we see what the deep state's all about and what the government does, that's the last thing I want the government to have the power to do. And it's completely amoral. Now, as it relates to abortion, I don't like, and I say this on my air, though, I say this to my people because, and I'm unafraid of telling them this, I do not support more laws restricting abortion. I support more attention to organizations that support life organically. So I'm not trying to do this to promote. Like, I'm not trying to make some kind of easy shill here. I work with a group called Thrive here, and they are individuals who give women options in terms of educational opportunities, in terms of job opportunities, even boxes of diapers, food, places to stay, money, resources, health care, all that kind of thing. That prevent a lot of women from. Oftentimes they're daunted by that possibility of not having any of that. And I don't think any woman wants to have an abortion. I really don't. This whole idea that women have abortions for birth control is baloney.
It is baloney.
I knew a couple people maybe in college, that kind of thing. But for the most part, that's a lie. Women do not want to have an abortion, and women instinctively want to keep a baby. In my opinion, what happens is they don't have hope. And in many ways, it's also because the guy is not around, which is why I was really proud to be part of the formulation of the men's ministry with Thrive, where we help fathers get involved in the lives of their babies.
This was the question I had.
So
now that you're going right into it, that's perfect.
Right. So what I'm saying is, I think the pro-life movement has made a mistake in one ways, because all they do is push for restriction, instead of working from the bottom and trying to make it a good choice to have a baby. And so you can limit it all you want. You can push for these vaginal exams and time, codes and trimester this and semester that and all that kind of thing. But you're not going to really reach the hearts of people until you give them constructive options to choose life. And so instead of like forcing somebody to have a baby, how about making it a good time to have a baby, an okay time to have a baby, by giving them options as it relates to them knowing that they can safely, securely, and financially handle a new life, all that kind of thing. So I think the pro-life movement had it wrong from the very beginning, because they always wanted to outlaw this and outlaw that and ban this and ban that, when we had an opportunity to be positive. I think we're now in that mode.
One thing that stands out for me, and I can see what you're saying, but where are the men in this? Now,
exactly.
Hold on. Do you think it's okay to have birth control?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. What happens if a state says it's you can't have an abortion? Who gets in trouble? The woman?
Absolutely.
Not the man.
I know.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Where is the chastity belt on the man? Why don't we start? This is what gets me so upset. Once again, it falls on all the women the guys. Why don't we do something about making it? There's got to be, if you're going to make a law, you call it
the zip it law.
The zip it, whatever. Zip it up, man.
Yep.
You can't have sex unless you are licensed and this, because you're telling me, Jamie, that you want a girl's 14. She gets pregnant. Why? They're both horny. She doesn't want a kid. She's 14.
Right. No,
sorry, I gave you a lot.
No,
I know.
no, you didn't, because I totally agree with you.
No, I'm not saying if I had gotten pregnant, I would not have had an abortion.
Right.
But what is I'm trying to come up with some sort of, what is the other option?
I'll address that. So at one point, the men's ministry in Thrive was an outgrowth of me pushing for a component that demanded or actually created responsibility on the part of the male for the baby, which the abdication of the male's responsibility is one of the key primary components of people having abortions when the guy is no longer around. And a woman who knows that the father's not going to be around anymore at that point has very little choice but to have an abortion at that point. It's exceedingly hard for a woman to have a baby by herself. I know many people who have. What I'm saying is, though, in the end, I think that ultimately, and you talk about laws, I think it ought to be mandatory that whoever impregnates a woman as a man or as a boy, they are on the hook. Mm-hmm. You consider all the laws that we have around here. Yeah. And again, some women don't want the male around because he's a dirtbag and everything else. And believe me, it's brave of women to have babies when the father is a dirtbag and even, in prison, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I get that. But for the most part, though, if you just simply, if families knew, like these dads who take their kids to Hooters, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Your boys to Hooters, and these dads who do all this kind of stuff, and you start, hey, what's up? When they have the conquest, whatever then you know what? What's going to be like when you when your son impregnates somebody, and your family and your mortgage is on the hook for the baby? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you what, your boy won't be playing around the way they're playing around. Yeah. So I completely agree with you. There's all kinds of things we could do in this society that we don't do. Totally. And you know what? They're like less government. I get the less government part, but we've got all kinds of ways that we kind of administer some certain levels of behavior.
I think with what you do, for example, with Thrive, okay? Yeah. We need, and it doesn't have to be a religious thing. I think it is with the church what you do, but it's about
Thrive is not a religious organization.
Oh, I didn't know.
No.
I thought it was. So, but the thing is it's about education. They are pro-lifers, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just so people that listen that. But
when you say pro-lifer, it's like, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, you call us people that are pro-choice. I don't know
what that means. So when you're like a pro-lifer sounds like.
Well, then we could go off on a whole. I know. It's just what people say,
right?
But semantics.
But
we started with this language and semantics.
But Judy, I will tell you that I think everybody's pro-life.
Well, it depends on the life. Because wait a second. If we're going to talk about the life, you eat meat. I don't.
Well, no, okay. Now we're getting to that part.
I know. You're going to hate me.
What I'm saying is, though, in terms of human beings, I think most people innately are pro-life.
Well, their own. People are innately egotistical, insensitive, selfish people.
Right, exactly. Right.
Really?
But what I'm saying is, though, I think I'm not trying to push a liberal into being pro-life. What I'm saying is, I think most women, by nature, once they become pregnant, feel a certain attachment to whatever that baby is, and so I think that but instead of like always, and it's mostly males who are running the show in terms of the legislation, that kind of stuff. It's a bad look. My feeling is that, and it's funny, the males all love passing, vaginal exams and parental consent laws and all that kind of stuff, and never address the male part of it, which I think you're right about.
It really bothers me. And it's not that I'm saying, Jamie, that I want more laws, but is that what it's going to take? I know what we need. We need more daddies around to show these men the right way to be.
Well, that's one law I think I could support is where you hold males responsible for the baby.
Yeah.
On the
At
other
any
hand,
age, by the way, 14-year-old boys can impregnate a 14-year-old girl. Think about it, Jamie.
Fewer laws and more promotion of life is the way it goes. I think it's
What about
interesting.
more promotion of family and connection with community?
Well, that too. I mean,
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
I mean, before any of that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guys in the men's ministry, for instance, the fathers I deal with are guys who are not any longer engaged with the mom per se in a romantic relationship or whatever, but they're tied together
involved
through
with
the
the
baby.
child.
So they're
That's
involved with the child.
fantastic.
And so that's what we kind of try to promote.
Right.
Because that also makes the woman, as long as these guys are good guys, you don't want to, then and the woman like accepts that part of it, but so it's so funny too. It's so funny how sometimes we get into this argument about my body, stay out of my uterus and things. I thought the vaccine thing was a really great example of the conundrum.
I don't think anybody should be made to get a vaccine.
Right, exactly.
I do not think so at all.
And
So I'm with you on that.
But it's so funny. A lot of conservatives were like, don't squirt me with this thing. And I totally agree with them. But they are also like wanting to impose a choice on a woman about having a baby. Now, again, people say but you know what? Grown-ups can argue this. Because I know that people will listen to this and go, Allman, you know the difference. It's different. It's a life, it's God. It's like, I get that, but you don't understand the debate that's happening out there and the conundrum that happens because you might understand that and you might believe that that's a life, but still, but keep in mind there are many people who actually believe that if you're not vaccinated, you're going to kill people.
Right.
Much like there are many people who believe that if you have an abortion, you're killing a baby.
You're going
it's
to
the
hell
same
or
thing.
whatever.
Yeah, right. So it's really important that in terms of discussions we have, not to just deflect to one side or the other.
And I
on
should
that.
not have said pro-lifer. I apologize for that.
No,
I
you
never
don't
have said
do
that ever.
Well, I mean,
it's kind of what you said
I
in
was
your
interviewing
shows.
Mark Casey. I call it baby killing.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Then I'm a vegetarian, so I'd say you're killing animals too, boy. Turning them red again. No, I mean, and the whole reason that I ask this is like I said, I look at things differently.
Yeah.
I look at things. I want people to hear differently. I want them to. What is subliminal? What is not being said?
Right.
What is not
Right.
being said and not being addressed? And it's like the males in this or calling president or former president titles. It's all what to listen for.
No, it's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I'm saying?
And I have to tell you though, it's very interesting and why it's so revealing and why it's so great to have these conversations with you, is that when you talk about the male part of it, that's something I've been talking about for 10 years. But you know what? It's not something that politicians on either side have been talking about. Even people who are pro-life people who beat their chest over, the life is the most important, the baby's most important. You start talking about making their sons responsible for impregnating a woman. They're like, well, anyway, so...
but wait, I'll take the liberal side on that and say, how bad are they when they go, well, it's my body. Well, what about the guy? Is he not involved at all? This is against liberals who would hate me for saying that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I see exactly what you're saying. They can't think beyond that.
At that point, there have been situations where a girl is impregnated
from rape or
whatever, and of course you don't want the rapist involved in raising the kid.
Nope.
But what I'm saying is, in most of the levels, and then the parents are like, we want the boys involved,
right?
And then the women are like, well, we don't have to have the boys involved if we don't want to,
and that's not right.
And that's another example where okay, we get your women's rights thing. And unless the guy is like an abuser, we know the reasons why you wouldn't want a male involved in yourself.
That's important. You have to.
Right.
If you can. But there's, again.
But there are ways around it. It's just, it's so weird that you and I can talk about this, especially the male quotient there. Or you and I can talk about, the difference between just passing laws and actually being pro-life. And like nobody else talks about this out in even the political sphere. They don't say anything about it. It's all, and then we have wars every election over, guess what? Abortion.
Always. There's a great video that I'll have to share with you, Jamie, and it's a guy actually. And he talks about every single form of contraception ever used and there's like about 100, all for women and one for man.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, that's sad.
Well, I will tell you that's it's so interesting how, and you raise such a good point when you bring up all those different contraceptions, because the women have all had to be like the Italian village in Cinque Terre, you know,
because we're the bears.
They always
had
the big ass wall up there for the invaders, you know, all the time. And say, well, wait a minute, why don't the invaders just chill? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why not just keep your invader in your pants?
Well, because it feels good.
Oh, I understand that, but the if it feels good, do it thing is a little bit outdated.
I don't mean if it feels good, do it. I'm not saying that.
No,
but
I know you're not advocating
it's you're going to try. No, because I'll go into a whole diatribe of 14-year-old, 15-year-old's hormones.
Hormones in meat and milk, just so you know, too. Hormones in all the food people eat.
Oh,
people develop a lot faster these days.
So I don't.
Yeah,
but I'm sure it's true.
Yeah.
Or milk. Do I drink milk?
Do you?
It's been a long time.
You don't know?
Well, I mean, I don't drink. I have creamer in my coffee. Does that count?
Yeah, some cow gave that to you.
Okay. Well, I think it's almond flavored.
But cows give it to people willingly. Milk.
It does a body good. Is that
Yeah.
I don't know what compromise can be made out of all this other than maybe, like you said, some kind of a law. I mean, there's loose laws already with males being apart, child support, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's.
But you know
these
what?
These boys are not accountable, and I just want to see the males just as accountable as the females.
In terms of child support, these people, if you're a 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl or 17-year-old girl, and you go ahead and have the baby, what kind of money do you have to go and pursue child support?
You got to get it from the kid's family,
from some guy. So if you coded that and made that part of a criminal code or a civil code,
would it keep the pecker in the pants?
Absolutely.
See?
I mean, I suggested at one point, and maybe people could steal this idea, but I had this whole idea of having a zipit.com, and it would be, we'd go into schools.
Yeah.
And we would have assemblies with males and females for that matter, and talk about the responsibility of males to zip their pants up.
Or use protection. They're not going to stop having sex. I mean, I'm sorry, Jamie. They're just not going to stop having sex.
Well, what are you apologizing to me for? That's a family responsibility anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of that stuff belongs in schools. The sex education. I did have one interesting time where I had Mrs. Roper, who I love.
No way, like from Three's Company?
Well, kind of. Mrs. Roper was our sex education teacher in high school at UCity. Oh, my God.
Did she bring out the banana with the condom?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely. It was the 70s. What are you talking about?
I've never had one as big as a banana, just so you know. Just so. That's all in school.
So she had a banana, and she had a condom over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were all going, do that again. But
was she cute? You were enjoying it that much?
Well, I mean, she wasn't. I mean, back in those days, I mean, I get it. I had Mrs. Green, who had a big bouffant, and this is early in the 70s.
You know what I was going to say. Okay.
And she had eyeshadow. She had a beehive and eyeshadow on and hoop earrings.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
I never forgot that. She was my first grade teacher. But I never forgot that part of it. Mrs. Roper was more like, very nice, but it was very sanitized.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And she was not in any way.
Not.
Well, she was a sex education teacher, and there might have been a few guys who were like into that, but I wasn't into having.
You weren't picturing her with a whip and a lasso or anything.
No.
I had no
ever
teacher
picture
crush.
anybody with a whip and a lasso.
No, that's not my
not
thing
my thing.
either.
Yeah.
No DM for me.
Yeah, that and food, no way.
That and what?
Food. Yeah, I don't get the whole chocolate and whipped cream thing.
Eating off people or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a prude, but that's something I just don't understand. But anyway.
We went off topic all because of the banana.
Yeah.
And the condom.
But I don't believe believe that sex education belongs
like
in
say
schools.
no to drugs. Obviously,
Yeah.
that didn't. Those whole things.
Well, all that stuff, dare, whatever. I do understand that schools do have there's a way that you can influence kids, and I think the best way to do it is at home. And everybody's like, "What about kids without parents?" It's like, okay, I get that part of it. And
That's where
there's always gonna
community
be
comes
that
in.
part
You
of it.
do stuff like what Jamie's doing with Thrive. You join.
Yeah.
You get. This is what we need more of.
Yeah.
That's how we get a community of family more.
I think a lot of things, especially when you talked about the males, resonates with people in a big way. And it goes beyond Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, whatever that is.
I'm all over the map, and I apologize.
Yeah, we should all be all over the map.
It's paying attention, listening, and listening hard.
Right.
Not hardly listening, but listening hard.
Totally agree.
Namaste well.
Thank you, Judy.
It's why we fight it out and make up again. Every moment is different when we try to see eye to eye. Eye to eye. Try to see me there. Eye to eye. Compromise is fair.